All right. How are you feeling?
Good. Great.
Good.
How are you feeling?
Good. Well, I still have COVID and God knows what else and everything. But fine.
But there's glimmers of light, I feel, on that front.
Now, I have some bad news for you. Well, it matters if it's bad news for you.
Okay.
You are in. This is. I was thinking about this today because there's no other way. Like with like men and honor among men through the centuries, there can only be one answer, and you are going to have to sleep with our neighbor Dan. Absolutely true.
No.
There's no other way. There's no other way. Dan now for the second time in a week plowed our driveway.
By plowed, you mean snowblowed.
Snowblowed, yeah. He snowblowed our driveway. And you can't have a guy do that twice. And the only historic...
today, you were like, he's snowblowing our driveway again. Quick, go out there and tell him not to. To me, that's going to help. Right. You can't send a chick out there to be like, oh no, sir, please don't snowblow the driveway. Don't worry, I'll shovel it myself.
We both know.
What's that signal send? That sends the signal, definitely snowblow the driveway because this chick's a damsel in distress whose husband's total loser.
How dare you? But you know very well that it's the right thing to do. You know that, right?
Well, you should go out there and tell him not to do it because you're going to do it.
No, I told him not to do it, and he said, "I know I don't have to." The fact is,
okay. Well, what do you think it's going to do if I go out there and tell him not to do it?
You're not going out there, Alice. You're sleeping with him, and then we're even. Other than that, I don't see how you can feel good about keeping your head held high, walking around in that driveway that's nice and clean now, knowing that another man did that.
Dumb, but it reflects on you.
You can't dare to look people in the eyes in your fellow Americans with your head held high until you make good on this.
By the way, this is like a Facebook etiquette thing, and I don't know what the answer to this is, but there's a mom in town, and I don't fully know what her situation is, but she's posted twice on Facebook now about having to shovel her own driveway. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering if that means she and her husband are no longer together.
Oh, you think it's a wink-wink thing?
I mean, maybe. Let me read. Because
is this person attractive?
Yeah.
Oh.
Also,
maybe I should pay it forward since somebody else shoveled my driveway.
Maybe you should pay it forward, Also, her Facebook account used to be her and her husband's name, and now it's just her name.
Oh.
So I don't know. I mean, I have no other indications that they're not anymore. But let's see. So her most recent one, on February 6th, her kids shoveled the driveway. This one, she posted 2 storms ago. She said, shoveled this entire driveway by myself this morning, all in time to get the trash down to the street. Born to be a princess, forced to be a strong, independent woman. Ugh. Well, no, but does that mean she's not with her husband anymore?
I guess so.
I don't get it.
It's a way of signaling, yes.
And then the next storm, she posted just another day of being a badass.
Right. In other words, DM her, ask her questions.
But somebody posted in the comments, where's XYZ, her husband's name, and she didn't answer it.
Right.
So, I mean, doesn't that seem but what a way to do
Alice,
that.
I think they broke up, if you're not getting
What a way to say that, though.
Right. Okay.
Mark in the chat says it shouldn't be snowblowed, it should be snowblue. Right. Which, but it feels weird to say that.
Whatever, Alice, but you need to offer a package to Dan.
I'm sorry.
No. So you will be doing that. That's one. Or at least a sincere offer. Now,
I'm going to leave that negotiation to you. I'm not being involved in that
Alice,
discussion. Yes.
If you're going by these parameters, then you also need to sleep with my brother and at least 2 members of your immediate family who are women too, and 10 listeners. Now that's it, Alice. Then you are free and clear. You are no longer burdened
10 listeners
by any of this. Okay? Then you are free. Wouldn't it feel nice? Wouldn't it feel nice to you to be clear of that burden? To know that you're no longer in the rears to all these separate interested parties?
Is this a weird, double reverse way to get me to make an OnlyFans?
You want to compromise?
No.
I see. So you're that was your suggestion. Very interesting.
No, but you're like
It's almost as
implication
if
that I like owe something to people.
It's almost as if that card was in your back pocket for this whole time.
No, it isn't.
Wow. Women are so devious. This lady logs things. Ugh, devious. Okay, Alice. Any other housekeeping you have, or shall we get now to...
I feel like I did, but now I'm distracted.
Well, okay. So...
I do have housekeeping.
Oh, please.
By the way, I mean, what's today?
Oh, it's your birthday today.
Well, no, not today. It's my birthday eve today.
All right. Oh, good Gulf of America Day.
My birthday eve is now Gulf of America Day.
That's right. Trump flew over in Air Force One and did the Gulf of America thing. He talked to Brett Baer, where Brett Baer said, "Are you serious about Canada and 51st State?" He said, "Absolutely."
I love this. This is great.
Absolutely. And really, that's the whole point is the left and the Democratic Party, they are so incredibly irrelevant now. They're irrelevant. It's like if everybody has it's like season 26 of
oh my God,
of
he's
Who
a
Wants to Be a Millionaire.
Power,
it's like, you know, like,
yeah.
It's like the one bit player from Will and Grace is on it. And you're like, I think I remember them from being on. Everybody has abandoned this. Mm-hmm. This project, this movement, there was a Democratic Party. Like David Hogg is like the second in charge. David Hogg, who's like, he's got no political bone in his body. He has no backstory. Well, he's a dumbass.
And I think like what's really telling is that, you know, their protesters and stuff are only protesting their own party. Like the Democrats and everybody, they're only mad, like our blue anon type friends, they're only mad at Democrats because they've realized they have zero influence over regular people or any policy or anything that's happening in the culture or in the world or anything else. They're just like, they've given up on trying to influence anybody who's outside of their own little circle. When they go out and protest, when they go out and yell at people, they're only yelling at their own team.
You're right. Just like when Chris Murphy went down to West Hartford yesterday, where he talks about, you know, we had 800 people came in. All that is the last vestige of the dead enders, the panickers to the last day.
But that's the only people left in their party.
That's exactly right.
But they know
there's no enthusiasm, no exuberance for anything. All there is left is the panicking pockets. That's it.
Right. Yeah, they have nothing. There's nobody left in their party that's not an absolute lunatic. So they end up in this death spiral where they just cater more and more to crazy people. And they can't, like, get out of this. When I look at my friends who are big lefties and the way they're posting on Facebook right now, they're mad at other Democrats.
Yep.
Right? So this is like my friend's high school, my high school friend who's a big liberal post. This is the same one who posted to ask if she had any more Trump supporters on her post, but she like reposted this thing about somebody that said like, remember last month when South Korea impeached their president because he was staging a coup, and you know what their elected officials of the opposition party were doing? Storming their government buildings to take back control. Ours just tweet and give weak ass speeches while sending out donation request emails. So they want to have a real rebellion.
Right.
Like January 6th, they want that, but for their team now. South Korean politicians and career government workers stood in front of guns aimed at them and dared their military to shoot them. The military didn't shoot. Our politicians say they're going to make a plan to ask the baby hackers who told them to enter the U.S. Treasury, ask who gave them permission to access and take information from the databases. They're going to ask questions. One country knows how to stop a coup and the importance of stopping it early. Like, they think that they're in resistance movement times and that the Democratic officials are letting them down by not going all in on this, like, stop the steal madness. Yes. You and I specifically criticized the January 6th stuff for, like, going too far.
Of course.
In the, you know, taking back our politics by violence direction. And, you know, because it got into, like, silly territory. But that's all the left is now.
Well,
all the left, the only energy left on the left of American politics is like the worst of anybody who was at January 6th times 1,000 in their party. That's like
yes,
all they have.
this is 5 or 6 lawn sign people. People who have 5 or 6 lawn signs. That's it. That's why. And the other problem is that none of the kvetching and screaming that politicians like Chris Murphy are doing, none of it is tethered to anything actually happening. So there's nothing to hold on to. Here's Chris Murphy go on this tirade litany of it's a straw man massacre.
Constitutional crisis, grossly unconstitutional, pretty alarming language.
Yeah, listen, I think this is the most serious constitutional crisis the country has faced. Certainly since Watergate, the president is attempting to seize control of power and for corrupt purposes. The president wants to...
So, among other things, that's not true. As a matter of fact, the executive branch is his purview. Mm-hmm. He's trying to make it smaller.
Right. So here's the like word you're going to hear a lot of now is impoundment.
Impoundment?
Impoundment, yeah. So, and this was an issue that was like heavily litigated in the 70s because of Nixon. And I think this is going to come up again and be a big issue in the courts in the next few weeks, months, years. But I don't think we got everything right in the 70s. But basically we had this like Impoundment Control Act. Basically what an impoundment is if Congress makes a law ordering the government to spend money on something and the executive branch just refuses to do it, right? Which that's illegal.
Okay.
Okay. So if Congress
it also happens every 4 seconds.
So, but, and so it depends, right? Kind of. But, and there's debate about exactly what this means. And Rehnquist sat in front of Congress and like testified about this, about the power, but this is a constitutionally debated question. There are whatever, like briefs and stuff by Roberts going back decades that are very skeptical of how much power the president has to actually do impoundments, right? But this is going to be like the word of the day legally for this stuff, because this is what the debate is really about, is if Congress says, we're appropriating X gazillion dollars to fight AIDS in Africa, and the president then refuses to hire anybody, refuses to disperse any of the money, like won't spend X gazillion dollars on doing AIDS in Africa, then like he's deliberately going against a law that the legislature literally passed, and that's illegal. Now, it's a question. Does waste, fraud, and abuse fall under the purview? Like, do we have to have waste, fraud, and abuse because Congress said make an agency? Right? Like, so, or do we have to like pay stupid amounts of money if, Congress appropriates money to buy office supplies and the office supplies are on sale? Do we have to pay full price just because Congress appropriated that amount of money? Like, we're not allowed to save money anywhere? Which is like, this is the Doge question, right? If it takes 20 employees to do what Congress asked USAID to do, then do we need 1,000 employees to do it? Or can we fire 980 of them? Right? Like, but so this is like where the debate's going to be, is like what falls under the Impoundments Act. And I think that because Congress has been so vague in creating a lot of these agencies and their powers, that gives the executive branch more power and more discretion of like how and what to do exactly with this money that Congress appropriates. Congress doesn't sit down and say like, we're passing XYZ for this exact thing. They create this agency with this budget, and then the agency decides what to do, right? So I think the president probably has a lot of discretion here. The other thing is that this is the genesis in the 70s of this whole stupid reconciliation budget process that we have today. Right? Is this same bill, this Congressional Budget Office and Impoundments Control Act of 1972. This is where we get this thing where Congress can get around the 60 vote rule to do a funding bill.
And this is the simple majority for a funding bill. And this is ideally that because you need to run the country, they try to make it easier if it's a tax bill.
Right. And I mean, Congress doesn't have to rely on the courts to sit here and decide exactly how much impoundments power the president really has if Congress passes more specific stuff. right? So if Congress decides they want to appropriate specific money for specific mosquito nets in Africa, then they can do that, right? And not have to just blanket fund USAID with all this money that's a slush fund, as some of the WikiLeaks emails said about USAID years and years ago, that it's a slush fund for the State Department and all these projects of people like, you know, Jake Sullivan and Hillary Clinton and Samantha Powers and all these crummy people. But, you know, this is exactly what people have been upset about, right? Is that Congress appropriates these large amounts of money into unelected agencies that have enormous amounts of unchecked power. People that have no accountability to the public, are not political appointees, cannot be fired, cannot be, like, this is what makes people mad. And did you see some of the videos I was sending around of like people going viral for being mad? Like, it's just stupid car videos of people being upset about like all the USAID money. Like, I'm about to have to send in my taxes in a couple months. And yeah, I mean, people are going to file their taxes by April 15th. They're going to see how much they're paying into this mess. And you can tell me all day long that the queer theater in Ireland or whatever is this teensy weensy little percent. But to me, who's paying in, and I have a tax bill that's however many $1,000, that money feels like a lot that you're sending to the queer theater companies in Ireland, right?
Or like, even just functionally that there'd be anybody at all pointed in that direction as a priority at all tells me anybody in that wing of the building needs to be fired.
Of course.
That somebody stands up with a straight face and is not afraid to say that in a meeting room tells me everybody in the meeting room needs to be fired.
Well, right. And I think where the left is they just haven't even realized, like, where the American people are on this stuff, right? So I was telling you, one of these, like, left-wing influencer guys was tweeting about how it was so terrible that, like, they're laying people off. First of all, they're laying people off with 8 months severance. Who the F gets that?
Right.
The American people have been suffering, and when their jobs in IT have been replaced by H-1B workers who got 8 months severance. Can anybody raise your hand in the chat if that happened to you? Because 8 months severance is not a normal private sector thing. That's pretty freaking generous, right? But then they say these sob stories like, can you believe what it's like? This guy, Alex Cole, who's a left-wing influencer, says, imagine having 20 years of admirable service on your belt and a 19-year-old with no government experience decides your position is wasteful. And now you, at age 50, with 2 kids who are still in high school, are out of a job despite being a top performer and doing everything right. I gotta think even Trump supporters are feeling some kind of way about this. Like, do you know what the American people have been going through for the last 4 years under Biden? Are you aware that people in the private sector ever get laid off? Are you aware of what it's like when your factory gets put overseas? Or you have to train H-1B replacements for you and then get fired? Like, this stuff is real. This has really
You're saying
been
that
happening to
non-government people also are 50 and have 2 kids?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And they don't just exist on our largesse. They do things for businesses that are worthwhile.
Well, and that's a great point, is that, like, it's not actually
The
supposed to
government's
be...
not a charity program.
Right. It's not a jobs program so that you can live in the right cul-de-sac. And then when you're all set, you're just going to go away.
Right. Like, it brings up the question of what is the point of USAID? Is it so that you can live in nice neighborhoods in Maryland and Virginia in the top 10 richest zip codes in the United States? Like, with a nice job while the American people get laid off and suffer?
Well, yes, they think that
They
is.
think that's the point of
I'm
the
a civil
USAID
servant.
program. Yeah. So, but I think this marks a sea change in how people are going to view these types of jobs. They absolutely should be subject to these efficiency things. And it's incredible. I mean, remember when the Obamacare website happened?
Of course.
And it, like, got made fun of at the Country Music Awards and stuff because it was so egregious that even they couldn't ignore it. That was back in, like, 2014 or whatever it was. And it was, they had spent all these gazillions of dollars on this stuff, but they, like, didn't actually build a website. Like,
And they launched it.
They were like, oh, well, it's just the back end doesn't
They
work.
didn't
It
finish
looks
it.
pretty.
It didn't work, and they launched it still.
Can you imagine, like, in
It's
the
like,
private
okay, last
sector
night it didn't
doing
work, guys.
something like that?
All right, well, this morning at 9, we're launching it. But it's dead. It's a cadaver that we're sending out there. Yep, we're doing it. Good government. There we go.
And then they have the nerve to be upset that, like, Elon and these kids come in there. And that's, like, another thing. So somebody texted me over the weekend and was like, are you, like, not worried about Elon and these people having access to all our data and social security numbers? And my answer to that is, like, were you not worried about all these freaking busybody, liberal, absolute ideologue activists having access to all your information before this that were unelected, unfireable appointees who had absolutely, like, no way to get rid of them, who then donated to politicians who just kept giving them raises and funding their departments? Talk about a freaking grift.
Yes.
All these people had access to my information. Like, no, I'm not freaking worried about Elon Musk cleaning up the government and having access to my government issued stupid number.
No, I agree.
I don't care. I don't care. First of all, I mean, like, everyone's social security number's on like 1,000 online lists already. I just give up. After seeing during COVID what happened with the organized crime and, like, all the benefits that got claimed under all the social security numbers, that's another good one, is that Trump is saying he's not letting illegal immigrants collect social security anymore. And all these liberals are going, what do you mean? Illegal immigrants could never collect social security. Obviously, that was illegal.
Jeez.
So true. And nothing ever happens that's illegal. There's never any fraud. Good point. So true.
There is no USAID. Oh, fine. There is, but we need it.
Be able to decide how and where money is spent so that he can reward his political friends, he can punish his political enemies. That is the evisceration of democracy. You stand that next to the whole...
This is all straw manning. He's going to reward his powerful friends and punish his enemies, and he's scaring people and trying to use intimidation.
Sale endorsement of political violence with the pardons given to every single January 6th rioter, including the most violent who beat police officers over the head with baseball bats. And you can see what he's trying to do here. He is trying to crush his opposition by making them afraid of losing federal funding, by making them afraid of physical violence. And so, yes, this is a red alert moment when this entire country has to understand that our democracy is at risk. And for what? The billionaire takeover of government.
Crushes political opposition, trying to intimidate people, yada, yada, trying to... And the greatest thing is that there's nothing based on any of that whatsoever that's remotely accurate or true whatsoever. All he did is throw a bunch of hypotheticals out there, mixed with all this weird hyperbole, and say he's going to crush his competition, and he's doing this and doing this, and there was nothing to it. There was just nothing to it. I'm trying to find the part where the 2-minute one where she asks a follow-up question, because it is everything. Hold on. Oh, here it is. So now, listen. So she follows up. This is the chick on ABC News. She follows up with him after his screed here and asks him a simple question. And this tells you everything. He just went through a laundry list of panicking, which is all hypotheticals. You can't describe any of this stuff to Donald Trump. She follows up.
Right now, they want to cut the federal budget. They would all disagree that it's corruption or anything else. They want to cut the federal budget and the workforce. Do you have issues with that?
Okay. This is the entire thing. They want to cut the federal budget. Do you have issues with that?
Well, I don't, but there is no...
Okay, but I don't? Oh, okay. So can we all go home then?
Right.
It's amazing. Amazing.
Force. Do you have issues with that?
Well, I don't, but there is no evidence that that is the goal. Ultimately...
but there is evidence that that's the goal, because that's what they said going in would be the goal. That's what they said for months and months, and that's all that's happening right now, is cutting. That's not the goal, though. Well, that's what's happening right now. That's not the goal. It's supposed to be meant to intimidate and get Elon's rich billionaire friends. No, that's what there's no evidence of.
Right.
There's no evidence of any of your conspiracy theories. There is evidence that they want to cut stuff. I think they've been very vocal about this.
At USAID, they sent a whole bunch of people home who were still getting paid. And I think you have to ask.
Wow, it's very humane.
Yeah, that sounds nice of them. It sounds like there's nothing for anybody to worry about in terms of all these terrible layoffs. By the way, I love that the Pod Save Bros are like all over this, how cruel and evil this is. The one example they can find of this directly impacting a human being, all these USAID cuts, is they have like one guy in what country even was it?
It was like the Mumbai Times or something.
No, Mumbai is India. It was just in Africa.
Kotkite. There's a
They're
country
like,
called
one
Kotkite now.
dude in Africa killed himself because he lost his USAID job.
Which seems a little rushed, doesn't it?
Seems like a little like an extreme
Like
thing to
he
do.
made it 5 feet outside of HR
I'm
before
gonna
he
guess,
brained
and there's like
himself.
no good news source on this that this actually happened. It's not like the AP is reporting this or something, so I don't really know. But, you know, Tommy Viter's reporting this like it is fact, like Trump's causing suicides left and right. But anyway, I'm gonna venture a guess that maybe something else psychologically was going on with this one dude in Africa who killed himself because
Yeah, it
of
seems
Trump's
to me a man
domestic
committed
policy.
suicide is the lead.
Why are they doing this if it's not actually accruing any savings? And to me, again, the reason is that somebody like Elon Musk stands to gain from the closure of USAID. It makes America much less safe.
Does he really? I guess Elon Musk stands to gain from every closure and every opening everywhere, really, because he's got 1,000 billion businesses. But Elon Musk can be doing better things than sleeping in a sleeping bag with a bunch of Diet Coke-addled nerds. It's craziness.
Around the world, but it helps China. USAID is a thorn in the side of the Chinese government. Elon Musk has many major business interests at stake inside Beijing. And
Trump already scared China out of the Panama Canal, okay? It was another thing that they hated, you know, him being mean
Right,
to...
and the Mexico tariffs are already done because Mexico caved on everything. So,
Right. It's a sop to China. He's got nothing. Oh, and it's helping China. Oh, wait a minute. I thought you were saying that this is a power grab here to intimidate political opponents. No, it helps China too, see? So, wow, who knew? Going in and cutting government had so many catastrophic pieces of fallout.
Are you telling me that now, by the way, that because we're cutting back, China's now going to go fund the gay theater in Ireland? And like that's going to really change our power prospects abroad?
Right.
I mean, that's obviously not going to happen.
And I love
Russia's
it. I mean, the
going
idea
to start
that,
doing that.
The idea that, and obviously,
Russia's going to fund workplace diversity in Serbia.
Right, and obviously they wouldn't fill those voids. But even if they did, let's say even if they did, the Chinese are going to corner the transgender kids market now. Even if they were going to, doesn't mean that we need this fat, corrupt agency to be the thing that's in the void. Nope, it has to stay. It has to stay, or the Chinese and the Russians will gain. It has to stay as currently constituted or bigger than it is now. Or else you're overthrowing the government.
It's a coup.
Freaking just amazing.
By the way, I think what's ultimately going to happen is that probably on some of these things, or like what should happen anyway, is it should force a vote. Like if what it comes down to is Congress already appropriated this funding and we have to do it, then like Congress should have to go do a vote. Like Trump should push for them to do a vote on cutting that spending, right? If the left is going to die on the hill of Congress already appropriated the funding for the gay theater projects and the workplace diversity in Serbia and whatever it is, right? Then Trump should say, okay, go have a vote, cut the funding, and let the left die on that hill, right? Because the American people hates this stuff. And this is why no one trusts them. And there was just a big CBS poll, which
this is the whole ball game, as a matter of fact.
You could tell by the reporting on it that they were like upset to be reporting this at CBS. With most describing him as tough, energetic, focused, and effective, and as doing what he promised during his campaign. President Trump has started his term with net positive marks from Americans overall. That's underselling it. He has started with his highest ever approval rating in this poll. Many say he's doing more than they expected, and those who say this most like what they see. Very few think he's doing less. His partisans and his voters in particular say he's got the right amount of focus. His deportation policy finds majority approval, which explains to you why they've stopped talking about that, because they've realized that he's taking hardened child rapist criminals out of your community is not the selling point they think it is for their party that's been keeping those criminals there. One key issue looms. Americans say the administration isn't focused enough on lowering prices. But then they get into this further down. They say that most Americans think it'll take about 6 months for him to impact prices. Like, they haven't expected the first 3 weeks of his presidency to impact their grocery prices, which is reasonable. But 70% of Americans say he's doing what he promised in his campaign. He's at an all-time high of 53% approval rating nationally, right?
Which is amazing, which is tells you that something in the old template is permanently broken.
Right. Because to listen to the news and to our friends on the left and like living in Massachusetts, looking at all my friends' Facebook posts, you would not know that he has a 53% approval rating.
No, but that just tells you that the people taking the CBS poll, do not believe CBS News.
Right.
That they have lost their efficacy. The American people are not with them. The American people don't believe what they're seeing. The American people are commuting to their to the news cycle via different modes of transportation.
Right.
Podcasts, etc.
59% approve of Trump's deportation programs.
Yep.
64% approve of sending troops to the U.S.-Mexico border. I mean, that's high. 2/3 of the country think we should send troops to the border. Only 48% favored detention centers like Guantanamo Bay. 54% think his handling of the Israel-Hamas conflict is good. And this is really interesting that I find telling is a lot of people say they had heard about the annexing Gaza comments, probably because the media hyperventilated about that. And people like mostly don't approve of it. 13% say it's a good idea, 47% say a bad idea, and 40% say not sure in terms of annexing Gaza. I do think that, though, what they said people told them in the poll is that, like, they didn't think that would really happen. They thought Trump was just throwing that out there as a negotiating tactic. And I think a lot of people, like, take it that way with Trump, right?
Absolutely, which is also going around what the media has said. The media is telling them, no, you need to take this literally. Please, take this literally. Panic. Now panic. They're not listening to Chris Murphy. They're not listening to Margaret Brennan. They're not listening to any of these people who tell them to panic. What they're doing is listening to the All In podcast. My brother sent me this. And I'm just going to play a little bit here because these guys talk about, it's tech bros, right? They talk about what it looks like, what Doge is doing with the USAID.
That doesn't include all the contractors that were there. And, the company's now servicing its debt, and they just priced.
He's talking about Twitter right now.
Yesterday, one of their bank deals at 97 cents. So this is a huge win. It means the company's doing extremely well. Other people bought the bank debt, and then the bank debt traded up to.
What he's saying is that he's doing the same exact template to USAID. Trump Musk in his bros.
A little over 98, so 98 and 5/8. A giant business success, a rousing business success. And Jason, you were there for part of it. You saw it. It was a disaster. This place was, it was tampons in the bathrooms and every woke thing you could possibly imagine, and no one in the office. It was so bad that the pens had gone dry in the conference rooms. It was just incredible. And I think that, that's how
So you mean the pens had gone dry because they were never being used, or because they were being used so much?
They were never been used.
We got there on the Halloween weekend, and we started whiteboarding, and
the race started work.
Next pen, no ink.
Yeah. Everything. It's incredible. But flowers were impeccable. Food being made fresh every day for thousands of people and thrown away 3 times a day, tossed in the garbage. Wouldn't even give it to the homeless. It was shockingly bad. Bureaucracy gone mad. Bad incentives. People don't care. So it was both. I think this turned into 2 things. One was just stop the wolf blind.
Honest with you, it would sit there and stew for 6, 7, 8, 9 months. You would maybe get small little tidbits of it, but now instead you're just getting the full thrust of it. And what is the biggest thing that I find concerning? I think it's what Antonio said, which is that the media, who are supposed to be this intermediary layer that's totally objective between the government and the people, were not independent at all. but had all kinds of hidden incentives, $8 million to Politico, several $1 million to the BBC. I think it's important to ask what's going on. And by the way, that also has historical context. This is exactly what happened in the 60s and 70s, where it turned out that record companies were paying DJs to play songs. There was a huge set of lawsuits.
So anyway, these guys, they get into, like as you heard, what they found at Twitter, and the same thing is happening at USAID.
Of course.
And the rot that's happening, the corporate rot. So these guys, they're all in podcast. They've got, I assume, millions of subscribers, I assume. It's a huge podcast. What you're not hearing from them, and I guess they've gone Trumpy. I just started listening, so I'm not sure. Maybe one of them isn't Trumpy yet. But what you're not hearing from these guys, these analysts, these tech bro geeks, is panic.
Of course not.
You're not hearing them like Margaret Brennan and Kristen Welker panicking. You, sir, are you going to cut this? Are you cutting? No, these are adult professionals. And that's why the polling is like it is. And that's why the media is done.
Of course. And what I thought was especially interesting, so this poll was conducted, some people might say like maybe this was before the Elon and the USAID stuff. This poll was conducted January 5 through 7. So this was at the height of all this hysteria and fervor about Elon and your personal information, and that's like Wednesday through Friday of last week. So this was obviously like right in the middle of this, and they asked in this poll specifically about Elon. Right? They said Elon Musk and Doge's influence over government operations and spending should be a lot, some, not much, and none. And a lot and some accounted for... Okay, I can do it in a minute. He wants me to remove his tooth.
Oh, Jesus. She'll be down there in a minute. Oh,
hang on.
Sick woman. She'll be down there in a few soon. I know, I get you, buddy. You can please walk out with it. Thank you.
51% said a lot or some influence over government operations and spending.
I got you a surprise for after your tooth, okay?
51% in this poll, at the height of the media hysteria about how terrible this Musk Doge stuff is, 51% said that Elon Musk should have a lot or some influence over government operations and spending.
Right.
49% said not much or none. So that shows you that even in this crazy media echo chamber with all this propaganda going on about how terrible this all is, that even then the American people are not on their side. And I do think it's so interesting that the media is like so powerless now. You know, John Fetterman has criticized them essentially for saying like, if you guys act like this about every little thing, like nobody's going to believe you ever. This is boy who cried wolf stuff, right? And the problem is they like don't have anything else, and their base is demanding that they do it. You know, like my friends are demanding that they act hysterical over every little thing. They don't have any other way to react to anything. They don't have any serious, like, rational argument for any of this stuff, for keeping any of these departments, for any of this.
No, you know? but what it is this, it's in self-infantilization where you think the government, all government and all establishment is good government, and it all acts day to day the same way its business model is, its motto is, the same way it's supposed to be defined. And they see the best in these bureaucracies, no matter what. Well, if you're trying to tear them down, then there's something wrong with you. This is the Melrose Mass Uncensored Group. A tax override isn't about unnecessary spending. It's about maintaining the services that keep our communities safe, strong, and thriving. When we underfund essential services like schools, public safety, and infrastructure, we don't save money. We just pass higher costs and bigger problems down the road. Investing now prevents decline later, protecting property values, attracting businesses, and ensuring a high quality of life for everyone. We need these to make everything, you see? We have to have an override because all of these institutions are working, these bodies are working so well for us that we need to do more of it, you see? Of course, this is from the place where we needed to make sure we hire Kuchenberger, who got rid of Halloween, and we needed to make sure we were a sanctuary city, and we needed to make sure Kuchenberger, had lost $2 million.
Right.
You know, all of the many things that they do, and we need to make sure we have an investigation into why the cops signs that all lives matter. We need...
Well, right, and And those problems stretch to everywhere in government. It goes for the local governments where your schools are, all the way up to the Department of Education, all the way up to the Pentagon. And, Trump said in this interview with Bret Baier, which I hope we get to on the Patreon side, essentially that like, he's going to turn Doge onto the Department of Education and the Pentagon next. And I think, not just the Department of Education, they'll probably cry about that too, to be honest. But when they go to the Pentagon, you're going to win over some like Code Pink type liberals and stuff too. And I do want to talk about the Jon Stewart interview with Kathleen Hicks. Is that her name?
Yeah.
This is like a year or so old or whatever. 2 years old, maybe even, but it was. I was telling you, like, oh, this is like being a thing again. This interview with Jon Stewart, and then like Elon Musk retweeted it like 10 minutes later after I told you that, because it is a thing, and I think that it's very representative of the attitude of the American people, and it's an attitude of the American people that is not limited to one side of the political spectrum at all. People who think that Trump is being extreme right wing have this totally misdiagnosed.
Mm-hmm.
He's populist, and he's populist in a way that reaches Jon Stewart viewers and Code Pink people and Tulsi Gabbard fans and RFK Jr. fans and like all these people. It's an incredibly interesting time to be alive.
So what is that? What do you think it is, Alice? It's the dividing line where people think you need every bit of the establishment there. These are the same people who are all upset about the Chevron decision, right?
Right, but these are
because they feel the experts are on top of the bureaucracies in Washington D.C. The administrative state is made of good people, really good people doing a lot of important good work. And why do they think that those people are really good people doing a lot of good work?
Because they went to college with a bunch of them?
Goddamn right. That's exactly right.
I mean, these are their buddies from college who
they
now
have a master's too.
They now all have nice houses in Washington, D.C. with nice cul-de-sacs, getting rich from these exact programs. So, of course. If it impacts your friend, of course you think that your friend's diversity program that they run is a good and worthwhile
I think my friend who has a master's, who went to school with me, is a little smarter than some MAGA idiot,
right?
Who's working somewhere in an oil field, or
who is playing a football game tonight,
or is playing a football game tonight, or tailgating, or the plumber who came to my house. It seemed Trumpy. I think I know a little bit more than him,
right? So I do want to talk about the Trump Bret Baier Super Bowl interview on the other side of this, and Trump going to the Super Bowl. We have a few chat messages. Let's do those first, and then let's do the Patreon show.
Tom, you had 45 seconds of your worst material last week.
What?
First, you said that Nancy Mace had a hobby horse with the tranny talk. How dare you,
does.
Tom?
Yeah.
Nancy Mace can talk about everything and anything, and you should be supporting her. I don't care if it's trannies. I don't care if it's movies. I don't care if it's paper cups. If it's apples, you should support her.
Sorry, I'm Steve. My son's disgusting tooth is...
It's hanging half out of his mouth.
I'm not wincing at you. Oh, no! Don't do this here. Alice, this is illegal, dude. Even the Taliban would do that.
I'll do it with floss after the show.
Oh, my God. I'm freaking faint.
Do we want to do a tooth extraction on the burn barrel?
She's brilliant and she's beautiful.
She is.
I love her. But
And number two, Tucker Carlson
yes,
is one of the best podcasters in America.
I love him.
Mm-hmm.
And
I like him.
He's one of the people that got Trump elected.
True.
Mm-hmm.
And you put on some hack who tried to impersonate him.
Yes.
It really wasn't that funny.
I thought it was good Tucker.
Can you please help me to understand what was going on in that 45 seconds of your life? And if you would consider taking those 45 seconds back, because it really wasn't your best work. Total fail.
So
you have to be open to having your own side made fun of. That's my belief.
By the way, that guy is a conservative. He's probably not a Tucker guy because Tucker seems to have turned on Israel. But I like anybody.
Nobody has a good Tucker impression.
No, that's why I like it, because the guy nails the laugh. It's really funny.
Yeah,
it's really funny. So I like that guy.
That
I think he's hilarious. I still like Tucker. I don't know quite what he's up to anymore. I think that you you can almost get addicted to
the high of being like super controversial and the
well, yeah, and also of accepting nothing having had factually ever happened. Nope. That's what they want you to think. Nope.
Yeah.
There's also a chance that nothing actually happened.
Oh, I wanted to do a quick impression for you because it seems like people are forgetting something very important recently with all of the news and all of the anger and strife and everything. Here's my impression. Remember him?
Yes.
Remember that? It's gone.
Yeah, remember that when, especially when he gets close to the mic. I did it. That was me. That was me. So he.
Alice, do you believe that Taylor Swift was masquerading as a Democrat to appease her fan base? Because she did go out and say that she supported Kamala Harris, but that's because the majority of her fans are probably left-leaning. But in reality, I kind of think that she has a MAGA t-shirt in her closet because obviously her boyfriend Travis Kelce is Republican, the Mahomes is a Republican, Harrison Buckner obviously is a huge MAGA guy, so she could be putting on a good act for the public saying that she was in support of Kamala Harris, but in reality, I think she's all MAGA.
I think she's a lefty. I do think she is. I think she's politically just not that.
She's just a girl.
Sophisticated about it. But I do think that she has a lot of very MAGA people around her, and I don't think she wants to rock any boats. She's not going out here like you say.
She's that level of Democrat where they think that simply without knowing any of the subject matter, simply being open-minded and compassionate makes you a Democrat. And that's it.
Right. I mean, which, that's fine. I don't know what we expect from people. If I'm going to go out here and only listen to music and watch movies from right-wing people, I'm not going to have a lot left to do. But that's fine. She is what she is. I do think she's a lefty. I do think her endorsement of Kamala was lukewarm.
Yes.
If you are listening on Patreon, stay there. I want to talk about Trump's Super Bowl interview. I want to talk more about the Mahomes. Trump had some words about Brittany Mahomes that I found very funny in the Super Bowl interview. Did you think that was funny?
Yes.
And about this Jon Stewart, Kathleen Hicks interview, I think it's important for us to talk about. So stay there if you're on Patreon. And if you want to join that, it's patreon.com/burnbarrel. Otherwise, burnbarrelpodcast.com.
C'est la vie.